we are made up of approximately 70% water. So though water is a feminine aspect, or symbolizes femininity, in a sense, we all have that element within us. So even as a male, you do still have the possibility to tap into that water element inside of you, into the feminine side of you, in order to create balance between the masculine and the feminine energy that's within you. So let's keep going. Where am I at? Okay. Here it says the nature of water is that it is defined by the shapes of the solid objects that surround it, but that it has no shape of its own. Even when frozen into ice, this solid water depends on its environment for the form it takes, even down to the gravity that dictates the shape of icicles. So therefore, as a female, you are formless. However, you can take on any form. Your environment dictates your form. Okay? So therefore, it is really important for us as females to make sure that we are paying attention to our environment in which we place ourselves into, because our environment will have a great influence on us as females. Okay, so it says here, even when it's frozen into ice, this solid water depends on its environment for the form it takes, even down to the gravity that dictates the shape of icicles. I don't know where I got tickets. The sacred and the profane Mircea Eliade observes that form manifests itself above the waters by detaching itself from the waters. Water, therefore, symbolizes a mass of possibilities. And it's not surprising that most creation stories share a common theme of the earth arising from a primordial, whirling, watery ocean from which all other life was created. Okay, so therefore, it says that water, therefore, symbolizes a mass of possibilities. The fact that you take on any form, however, you're formless, but you can be any form. The fact that gravity affects water, that when the icicles form, it actually detaches itself from the water and then forms icicles. So you are a world of possibilities as a woman. All you need to do is tap into that. So, part of the story of our, I don't really want to get into that. So here we are, here where it says, okay, part of the story of our own evolution was when amphibious creatures came out of this water and spent their whole lives on dry land. Similarly, the story of a great deluge is universal, meaning the great deluge, meaning the flood with Noah, whether as an accident or of nature or an act of God. For many religions, this flood constituted a symbolic washing away of sins on a grand scale. Recent images from flooded cities such as New Orleans are a sober reminder of the devastation that can be wreaked by water's huge, formless mass. So you have to remember as well, though, ladies, though you take on no form, though water is, it's soft, it's, formless, it doesn't hurt. You have to remember the fact that you take on no form, you can take on any form, and that you represent a world of possibilities. So just as you can bring delight and you can bring light and you can bring pleasure, you can also bring devastation and destruction. Just by looking at, we've seen many floods happen over time, especially in our recent history over the last, 10, 15, however many years. So it says here, New Orleans are, recent images from flooded cities such as New Orleans are a sober reminder of the devastation that can be wreaked by water's huge formless mass. So be careful, be careful, be careful of the environments that you place yourself in and the people that you place yourself around, because you are formless, and therefore you can take on any form. And we as females, which means that our environments can become very influential to us. If you have a sister circle or a circle of girlfriends that you hang around, you know that we are all influenced by each other, and we are all very influential to each other. Though we may have our own mind, make our own decisions, and do what we need to do for ourselves, however, we affect each other as women and as a group. So the movements of the moon and the planets dictate the rising and falling of our earthly tides, further underpinning the connection between all the elements. So you as a woman, the moon is also a feminine, it's also a representation of you as a female. And it says here that the movements of the moon and the planets dictate the rising and falling of our earthly tides. So therefore, you as a female can dictate the rising and falling of the environment and of the environment around you. So it's, again, very important to make sure that you're paying attention to your environment, what you're taking in, as well as what you're putting out, because you dictate the tides, okay? Further underpinning the connection between all the elements. So you as a woman also has a connection and an influence over all other elements. The water element, the earth element, you as a female, the moon representing feminine energy, it dictates all other, or has a relation to all other elements and influences all other elements. So you have to understand your importance. So therefore, once you understand your importance and what it is that you influence and how you influence all that is around you, as well as being influenced by all that is around you, you need to make sure that you're inputting in right information so that the way that you're influencing your family, the people who are connected to you, your friends, your business, is conducive to you and your environment. So let's keep going. It says here, individual life gestates in the water environment of the womb, in the watery environment of the womb. Here we start to make the connection between water and the feminine element, as the continually changing form of the moon, whose visible shape, like water, is also defined by something else, the light of the constant sun. So therefore, just as the moon affects the water, and the water as a water element, you know, you're affecting all that is around you, the moon is also affected by the sun. Seeing the moon, seeing the shape of the sun, it becomes the moon, it becomes visible because of the sun. So it's letting you know that you have relation to things, that one affects the other and one makes the next be visible, seen, come into form, happen. So again, know your value, know your worth. So let's see what it is that they're talking about. Baptism, a religious ceremony sometimes involving a complete immersion in water, symbolizes a rebirth and regeneration, underlining the idea that water gave birth to all life. Another vital aspect of water is its ability to reflect. Native American people call a still pool of water, aptly and lyrically, a sky mirror. Water therefore gave man the first means of seeing himself as others saw him, and reinforced the reflective links to the moon. Whew, that is powerful. Now that's powerful. I don't even know if I want to start there or work my way up to there to what I just read. Let's just work our way. Let's just work our way to that point. Don't forget that point right there. Don't forget what I just said. Okay. Let's work our way up to that point. First, let's start with the baptism. That it says, baptism, a religious ceremony sometimes involving a complete immersion in water, symbolizes a rebirth and regeneration. Now, we already went over that you symbolize birth and rebirth, life and death, that you are a cycle, a perfect circle of 360 degrees. So you need to know that you are a perfect circle of 360 degrees. I don't know how many people you know who can actually draw a perfect circle, that if it was checked, okay, most people need a protractor in order to make a perfect circle. You are a perfect circle. And we do know that circles represent us, just even in regards to our administration, the moon, and that we go by a 28-day cycle monthly. So we represent a cycle. So here where it says baptism, a religious ceremony sometimes involving a complete immersion in water, symbolizes a birth and rebirth, symbolizes a rebirth and regeneration. Regeneration, that's big. We're not just talking about rebirth, we're talking about regeneration. Every certain amount of days, your cells go through apoptosis, they die, and then they regenerate. Every day, your cells are regenerating and creating new cells, new cellular tissue. So look at what you can do. Regeneration is also healing. You know, when you regenerate, regeneration can also be a healing. So you as a female are also a healer, and you're able to regenerate, and you're able to bring life into, okay? So underlining the idea that water gave birth to all life, okay? So you are a representation of giving birth to all life, in which we do, okay? Another vital aspect of water is its ability to reflect, okay? Native American people call a still pool of water aptly and lyrically a sky mirror. Water therefore gave man the first means of seeing himself as others saw him, and reinforced the reflective links to the moon. So you as a female, you are the sky's mirror. When you are in right place, right mind, right thought, you become that reflective mirror for man to see himself within you. But it doesn't just happen because you are a woman and because you are a female. This right here is underlining all of the things that need to be in place in order for you to be that to another man, in order for you to be that to another person or to a man. You need to understand yourself first. You need to understand who and what you are first, and the feminine aspect. You need to know exactly what you are. You may know who you are. You may know your name, where you come from, and your background and history, and all the things that was told to you as to who you are when you were born. However, knowing what you are and what you represent gives you more power in who you are, because it's different if you know, oh, well, you know, my name is Katina, but if I found out that I was a queen, which I did, then you're gonna roll different. You're gonna be like, I'm a queen. Like, I got subjects, okay? Your whole mindset, your whole movement, your environment will dictate your movement. Place yourselves in great environments in order to be great. So back to what it was that I was saying. Native American people call a still pool of water aptly and lyrically a sky mirror. Water therefore gave man the first means of seeing himself as others saw him, and reinforced the reflective links to the moon. So you are a reflective link. You are a link to the moon. You are a link to the moon, to the earth, to the sky, to the heavens. You are a sustainer, giver of life. You represent birth and rebirth, regeneration. You represent a perfect cycle of life and death. You represent many, many, many things as a female. You as the female, with the moon representing you, which controls all tides and therefore controls and has a relation to all elements. You as the female have a responsibility in a sense, because you influence all other elements. So you influence all that is around you in your environment, whether you know it or not. Even if it seems like you're not, you do. You may just need to take control. So, like everything else in the world, water is affected by gravity. Water flows downwards from the highest place until it meets the sea. And the river itself is a symbol of the linear aspect of time. Come on now. The river itself is a symbol of the linear aspect of time. You are a symbol of the linear aspect of time. And how could you not be bringing in life, bringing in birth that will pass on and be reborn again? You are let's get these words right. Let's get these words back. A linear aspect of time. This flowing water carries with it the spirit of the mountains from which it springs, providing an essential resource. And we know that there are many resources and mountains and caves and things like that. You find Himalayan salt and, you know, in the water, and caves and mountains, and, you know, many minerals and things like that that are present. So you are a representation of all those things. It says here, if you look under the earth element, where is it? I'll find it for you. Just, okay, boom. Earth itself symbolizes a womb, pregnant with water, minerals, and the seeds of plant life. So you symbolize a womb pregnant with water, minerals, and the seeds of life, human life. So you are, again, sustenance. Things that are, you must dive deep for, that are not easy to come by. They don't just present themselves to you. You are deep like a cave. You're deep like the ocean. You are vast like the ocean. You rise above waters and form earth in which you are. Okay, so let's keep going. This flowing water carries with it the spirit of the mountains from which it springs, providing an essential resource. Most of the world's major cities have developed along the courses of rivers, and we find time and time again that both the rivers and the cities are held to be sacred in some way. The oceans are so deep that despite all of our exploration, there are still life forms that remain undetected. The oceans also contain surprising aspects like the deep hot water vents, whose apparently poisonous environment can support all sorts of creatures, be they animal or vegetable. Okay, so like I said, you are deep. It says, despite all of our exploration, there are still life forms that remain undetected. You have things in you that you haven't even detected yet. You have things in you that you don't even know you have yet. You have things in you that is unknown, that can't be tapped in or touched. Okay, so that is an important message to remember, because many times we feel like we're on our wits' end and there's nothing left. And so many people have taken so much from us, because as females, we're givers. Okay. And sometimes we give, but rarely is our cup being filled back up. And sometimes we pour until there's nothing left and it's empty and you feel like there's nothing more. But there are things in you that are still undetected, that are still untapped, that not even any man, no man can touch. Okay? So where we at? I like here, the oceans also contain surprising aspects, like the deep hot water vents, whose apparently poisonous environment can support all sorts of creatures, be they animal or vegetable. So listen to that. You have surprising aspects. You have things in you that are surprising. You, like the deep hot water vents. okay, whose apparently poisonous environment can support all sorts of creatures. Even though the hot waters are poisonous, the environment can still support all sorts of creatures, be they animal or vegetable. And that's okay. That's okay to have that poisonous environment, because you have to also know how to protect yourself. Okay, but we also have to be careful, because sometimes our poisonous environments literally become poisonous or become toxic to our entire being and everything and everyone around us. Because just as I said, we give and we give and we give, and we've been taken, so much has been taken from us, that sometimes it causes a bitterness, and it causes a poisonous in a toxic environment within us. And we tend to spew that out, to people that are around us. So we have to make sure, again, that we are placing ourselves in right environments. So I'm almost done with y'all. Because the deep waters of the sea and lakes symbolize unknown realms, we often find that fairy tales and myth use these watery depths as places where otherworldly spirits dwell. Foggy, misty places somewhere between the world of the living and the dead are liminal environments and places of the spirits, where the worlds meld one into the other. The Elysian Fields, the place in Greek myth where the souls of dead heroes repose, may be derived from an Egyptian word meaning field of reeds. Homer describes that asphodel and a poplar that grow there, both water-loving plants. Okay. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to focus on the fact here where they're saying, because the deep waters of the sea and lakes symbolize unknown realms. So you symbolize unknown realms. We often find that fairy tales and myth use these watery depths as places where otherworldly spirits dwell. So you are again, a conduit from spirit and earth. And this is like a representation of saying that you are able to bring things from the seen into the unseen. You are a manifester. When you conceive with child, that is something from spirit form. You took something from nothing. Two people made three. You nurture that child in the dark in your womb. But when you give birth, you bring that soul as well as that spirit through your womb into the world of life and light and death. So here it says, which I didn't really get into this before, but here it says, as gods resided on the loftiest summits of the mountain, gods were also often born inside caves. So if you've seen my other video, I explained here, the most fitting symbolic form within the landscape of this great earth mother is the cave, whereas mountains reach towards the sky and belong to the elements of air and fire, which is masculine. The cave itself signifies the womb. Okay, so here where it says gods were also often born inside of caves, here it says, because the waters and because the deep waters of the sea and the lake symbolize unknown realms, we often find that fairy tales myth use these watery depths as places where otherworldly spirits dwell. Okay, foggy, misty places somewhere between the world of the living and the dead are liminal environments and places of the spirit. So you are able to bring spirit forth into life, and you as a female representing a cycle also represents the cycle of life and death, birth and rebirth. So we are almost done. All right, so I'm not going to really go any further. I think I'm going to leave it at here. This video is actually long enough. Just a quick recap, ladies. You are earth, you are water, you are the moon, you are influential, you are influenced, you are all of these things.